Welcome back to the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout Podcast, episode 31 coming your way. And it is a very special one today for several reasons, but primarily because we have officially welcomed on Gibbo as our name to be decided executive producer role to the podcast, which is pretty awesome. And we'll get into a little bit getting maybe to know Gibbo just a little bit better with some Star Wars related questions. But before we get into that, Joey, what's going on? How are you?
I am doing really well. I am super excited for this episode with bringing on the one, the only Gibbo. And for those who don't know, Gibbo has been really supporting us from the start, helping us out with these overlays. Whenever we do reaction videos, he's actually the one that cuts them because it's super late in the evening for us, and it's really, not early in the morning, but he's on the other side of the pond.
He's the one that made that asset. Actually, all of these assets, but
yeah, everything you see.
Yeah,
everything you see here is Gibbo. So we finally had a discussion, and we wanted to have him. He offered, and we accepted to help us out. Live on these podcast episodes. So if you are watching on YouTube, you're gonna see exactly what we're talking about. We're hoping for a much better show for you guys. And yeah, without further ado, I think it's time to say what's up to our friend Gibbo.
I was going to say, that's too much love. Come on, boys.
we are like we were going through stuff before we started the podcast. Gibbo was showing Joey and I, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is like so professional looking. This is awesome. So for any of you that are audio only podcast listeners out there, definitely check out the YouTube channel this week, especially, and further weeks going forward, because the visual product of the podcast definitely is going to look way cooler now than it did in previous weeks. So yeah, super big welcome to Gibbo. And we wanted to officially welcome Gibbo as well by asking him a question or two. Maybe if you have a favorite Star Wars memory of your entire life, what that would be. And then, of course, what is your favorite Star Wars movie if you have one?
Okay. Well, it's probably going to be rolled into one, basically just watching A New Hope. And when I was young, staying at a friend's house at a sleepover, and they chucked on that, and I was like, wow, I need more. And yeah, ever since, been a fan. Not in depth as you guys, but I love it. It's a cool universe.
Definitely. So your core memory is where it all started.
Absolutely.
I think that's something I'm very envious of. Something that I know Joey and I have talked about before. That
wait, what was your core memory again? I can't remember that. What was the core memory episode?
My
2,
core memory?
Yeah, was that the first core memory? I can't
Unfortunately, my core Star Wars memory is the Battle of Geonosis. I think the Battle of Geonosis is I think people hate on episode 2 too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still probably my least favorite prequel, but that is my core Star Wars memory. Is watching Yoda flip around.
Battle Geonosis with all the Jedis. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was the first time you've seen all that.
I know, right? It's a cinematic moment in Star Wars history.
But I mean, it's fine.
Right,
we love it.
And producing. Get on with the show, boys. Have fun.
Thank you, Gibbo.
Yes,
and that's Gibbo.
That's Gibbo. Once again, a huge welcome to Gibbo, and much thanks for everything. Not only that he has done to create such a visually stunning version of the podcast today and moving forward, but also for what Joey was talking about, for all the things he's done to make the podcast what it is, including all the assets and the reaction videos. So much love and big shout out to Gibbo.
You're very welcome.
And moving forward on with what we're going to be talking about today. We most recently on Monday night we did our first ever, if you didn't catch it, we had a live stream here on the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel, and it was quite fun. Although I will say we had a little bit of a snag at the beginning because all my fault. We had to wait over an hour for a patch to install, but once we got it installed, I enjoyed the game quite a bit. I think Joey's probably put maybe 6 to 8 hours in. Is that right,
Yeah.
Joey?
Well, yeah, so
more like the 2 to 3 hour range.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's first ask you this: did you finish Fallen Order yet, or have you finished that game yet?
So I played Fallen Order originally. Gosh, what would it have? I guess what year did that come out?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And this sounds so bad to say because I know I've seen the end scene, and I know I've seen the scene where Vader with the lightsaber, where he puts it through the. I guess she would be an ex-Inquisitor at that point. Um, but I don't know if I played it or I watched someone do a playthrough of it. As bad as
Yeah.
that sounds.
So I ended up finishing Fallen Order the Monday before
Mhm.
Jedi Survivor came out, and man, it was such a good game. Um, I and we've talked about this before, Ben. I'm not very good with story mode games. I'll play it for a good like couple weeks, and then just completely forget about it for months, maybe years, to be honest. And then so when Survivor came out, I was like, oh, when Survivor was coming out, I'm like, all right, I got to finish Fallen Order. I got to finish Fallen Order. Ended up finishing it on Monday. I did it on the second to lowest difficulty just because I wanted to get through it. I think it's a Jedi. I want to say it's the Jedi Knight.
Mhm.
Jedi Knight setting there. So finish it on that Monday, and it was super fun. But yeah, the ending is really good. I mean, there ends up being, for those who don't know anything about Fallen Order, this you may want to skip here. But for the yeah, like as you said, Vader kind of pops out at the end surprisingly, ends up killing the Inquisitor. I guess I think she is still an Inquisitor at that point. I think so anyway. That you fight at the last battle, and you end up befriending a Night Sister, which I thought was really cool on Dathomir. And so there's a lot of fun stuff about Fallen Order. So if you haven't played that yet, go and play that. I haven't finished the book yet. There's a Jedi Battle Scars book that happens, I think, shortly before the Jedi Survivor game. So I'm still reading on that. But yeah, I've got about 6 hours into Jedi Survivor at this moment, and it's just a visually stunning game as long as it can actually run on your system. I think that was the problem that a lot of people had, including us. We had to dial back the video settings quite a bit, especially because we're streaming, so that takes up
Sure.
additional resources and stuff like that. So I have not played it off stream, so I'm not quite sure if it'll perform any differently there. But I mean, to give an idea, on the day that I streamed it for my channel, there was a patch that actually came. I was actually playing a game with Gibbo. I was playing Fortnite with Gibbo, which we'll get to a little bit later. I was playing a game with the Gibbo, and all of a sudden, I was dropping frames. Everything was going crazy on the game on Fortnite. I checked my task manager, and I come to find out that Steam, that's how I bought Jedi Survivor, was re-downloading the game. um, I had downloaded the game being
And
Jedi
it's not a small
Survivor.
download either.
It's not a small download. So, the first time I downloaded the game, they allowed you to download it a couple days early. So I think I downloaded the 150 gigs on Wednesday or something like that. And then so on Thursday night at 11 p.m. our time is when the game was supposed to go live. At that time, it released another like huge patch. They essentially replaced the 150 gigs with like another 122 gig file or whatever. So I had to just sit there and wait for a little bit. I threw a little bit of words on stream. I made it work, but eventually I got it to run. And I kind of ran into the same thing as you, Ben, where things weren't like rendering properly, and it kind of was kind of wonky. But then eventually it kind of all smoothed out, and it started working. So, but yeah, if you get a chance to play it, I mean, we're like I said, we're pretty early into the game, and hopefully we continue our playthrough over the next couple weeks. But yeah, if you get to see the game, I mean, really early on, there's shots of Coruscant on there. That's amazing. There's just the cut scenes are beautiful. Every detail that you could see. There's a moment actually in the game where if you're running too much, his hair actually gets a little disheveled. And initially, I thought it was because it was a glitch, like something was wrong. If that happens, he actually stops and then fixes his hair. So
wow.
it's like actually part of the game, which I think is hilarious. So, yeah, and we're just looking a little bit at the trailer here. I mean, you could just tell they've just put so much work into it, visually, and the gameplay is a lot more fun. There's a couple of new things that you can do, and one of the things I really enjoy is that you don't necessarily forget anything you learned from the Fallen Order game. like some of the skills that you learn from there, they carry over to Survivor, which I appreciate. And then of course there are a couple of more skills. So yeah, it's just I've had so much fun playing it, and I could when we streamed it on Monday, I think it was just a ton of fun just talking about things while you were playing through it.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the fact that it doesn't feel like Hal, as the main protagonist, regresses skill wise from Fallen Order to Survivor. I think in previous games, I'm trying to think of another franchise like Batman. The Batman games are another example of a skill tree game where I think a lot of the times, like they would add new stuff, but you would still have to relearn some of the skills that you already did from previous games. So it's cool to kind of see the inclusion of Hal, like not regressing from Fallen Order to Survivor, like you were mentioning. I had a really good time playing it so far. Again, we're really early on. We're only through the Coruscant first little segment of the game, or at least I am. I think you're one segment further than I am. I'm looking forward to that as we're seeing. There's
the Rancor.
The Rancor fight. I think that's gonna be so much fun. I may or may not have been watching a stream a couple days ago. I think it was Tim the Tatman, and I saw he was playing Jedi Survivor. I was like, what? That's crazy. I didn't think Tim would be playing it.
Yeah.
He played it for 9 hours in one day.
Gosh.
And I just happened to like click on his stream and he was fighting a Rancor and I was like, oh, this looks so cool.
Can we just become full-time streamers and make this our lifeline job? I mean, because that would be so fun just to play Jedi Survivor on like a Wednesday for like 10 hours.
Yeah. I think, what did we say? The game in total is a 25-hour game, or how long did we say it was?
I think that's right. I think Jedi Fallen Order was closer to like 20 or 18 or something like that, and Survivor was about 25 or so. So yeah, it's definitely a good long game that you can get through. And I mean, that's probably from beginning to end without all of the cool little features that, if you look on Google and search on some things that you can do, there's some funny things that you can do within the game that are little Easter eggs for you all.
Oh, really? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I have to embrace my dark side of the Force here for like 10 seconds and say, if there's one thing I would change, I think you know what I'm going to say, because on Monday, I felt like I watched back our VOD of our live stream, and I was like, man, I was complaining about this one thing for way too long.
Yeah, that's right.
It was, so if you've never played Survivor, basically there's a health meter, as you would expect on any enemy, but then there's also like is it called a force meter, or what is the other one called?
Yeah, like a force meter essentially that you get on yours.
And so before
you're talking about for the opponents. You're talking
for
about
the opponents. Yeah,
that's like a blocking stamina type of
a stamina bar or something. So before you can deplete any of the health, you have to fully deplete their stamina bar. And I swear I played like 10 minutes of the game, and I was like, why can I not get them to lose health? And then I think you may have finally, like, you realized what I wasn't understanding, and you told me, like, oh, that makes so much more sense. But then on some of the boss fights, like, that mechanic makes it really difficult because you only have a certain, like, window of time. Anyways, that was
before
something...
they regain that stamina again.
Right, exactly. So I've already done one boss fight, and I definitely struggled a little bit. And I think I was playing on that same, whatever, not the easiest difficulty, but the one like one level
above
up from that. I think there's 4 difficulties?
I think there's 4, yeah.
Like Grandmaster is the highest one.
Grandmaster Jedi or something is the highest, yeah.
Right. So like on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the hardest, like we were playing on 2, and I was like,
2, yeah.
How am I supposed to do this? So it's a fun game, don't get me wrong. And I think I'll get more adjusted to the stamina mechanic as I keep playing it, but definitely provided a challenge for me. I guess I'll say that. Check out the VOD of our first live stream, I guess, if you haven't.
But maybe not the first like 15 minutes of it where we're troubleshooting.
No, it was like an hour. Yeah, that was the funniest part of our VOD, was that like for the first 10 minutes, I could hear Joey, but no one else could. And so like Joey's like saying stuff to me, and I'm like responding and laughing. And it's funny on the VOD because it sounds like I'm a crazy person, because it just sounds like I'm like talking with myself.
Yeah. And of course Gibbo was in the chat and he said, you know what would be good right about now?
Yeah.
As a director.
Yeah, we live troubleshooted with the help of Gibbo, and we're able to figure it out. But anyways, looking forward to more playing of Jedi Survivor, and see, I have been trying really hard to avoid spoilers for the end of this
Mm-hmm.
game. By the way,
Same.
anytime I see something remotely, I'm like, nah, I can't read that.
Yeah.
I gotta go into the rest of the game clean with no knowledge of what happens.
Yeah, so on Twitter, they always show like the trending, trending terms or whatever. Whenever I see anything Star Wars related that could be, like I saw like Darth Vader like pop up once. I'm like, nope, I don't care. You know what? Normally I would be clicking here, but I don't know, maybe that's Darth Vader in there. I don't, so
Yeah, yeah.
I've been avoiding it like that just because like that last time when I got spoiled by before an episode of Mandalorian, who there was an appearance there. It was our friend Zeb,
Mm.
and I got a little spoiled there. So
You did have that spoiled for you, didn't you?
yeah, that was not fun.
To be fair, when you told me that you got something spoiled for you, I thought I mean, Zeb being in the episode was really cool, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, right,
But
yeah,
I thought it was gonna be something, like, fundamentally game-changing for the
right,
show,
yeah.
and I was like, "What did Joey see? Oh, no." But
wasn't quite that huge.
yeah, if you had to get something spoiled, I guess it could have been a lot worse, but
Hmm.
that is kind of a fun thing to be upset that it got spoiled because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I don't get the surprise of seeing him in the episode."
Hmm.
Anyways, um but yeah, I guess kind of shifting gears from Fallen Order and Survivor and the world of Star Wars video games. I guess we'll circle back around to some Star Wars video game stuff here in a bit. But now that we're kind of more removed from the end of the third season of The Mandalorian, um, I guess what has been your perception of not only your own, but kind of the pulse of the fans, the pulse of the Star Wars community? How are people feeling about season 3? Maybe
Hmm.
more importantly, how are people feeling about season 4? And just kind of their overall vibe with where things are at with The Mandalorian.
I think it's just as the Star Wars fans always do. They just split right down the middle and divide.
Yeah,
I mean,
oftentimes.
there is a good portion of the people that have the same thoughts as that you and I had, where the finale was fun, it was nice, but it was all tied up in a very very it was all tied up right at the end. It could have easily ended the series there, and like you and I think I've heard several people say the same thing that you said. It was a safe ending.
Mhm.
Um, and on the other side of it, there are people that are just upset, with kind of the arc of Din Djarin and Grogu, where they kind of took a step back or step aside when Bo-Katan came in. There was it really she ended up really driving this series for a long time, for a good portion of the season, really. Um, where I didn't have a problem with it. I think you and I have, kind of really grown to love Bo-Katan even more so
Yeah.
than where she was in the Clone Wars. Um, and just to kind of see that in live action, it's always really cool. And yeah, so unfortunately, yeah, we're gonna still have these dividing thoughts, these dividing opinions within the Star Wars fandom. I don't, or maybe not. Maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. If something that's considered art, that what this is all is going to be interpreted differently by different people. So fortunately, I think you and I are more of the I am enjoying all of this. So whatever you give me, I will like for the most part. Sure, I'll have things that and with them being an 8 episode season, then there's the whole idea of, well, you can't have like what they considered filler episodes, for instance, the Jack Black Lizzo episode and things like that, where we thought it was fun. I thought I had a great time watching that. The Scooby Doo episode. Who knew that we needed that in our Star Wars? So yeah, it's definitely exactly what I expect. We would expect the Star Wars fandom to be. People liking it, people not liking it, and yeah, that's just Star Wars for you.
Can I tell you a really fun quick story about the Jack Black Lizzo thing?
Hmm.
So tonight, I work with kids, and so on Wednesday evenings we have gatherings with large groups of kids. And um, tonight I overheard two of them having a conversation about the Mandalorian, and one of them was like, "Did you guys know that Jack Black and Lizzo are in season 3 of the Mandalorian?" And and this person hadn't even seen, neither of them had seen it this season,
Mm.
and So then I kind of chimed in. I was like, "Yeah, you guys know they're married in that show," and they're like, "What? That is so weird." I
Right,
was like,
right.
"Oh, that's funny. I'll have to bring that up." But yeah, definitely some filler episodes. Maybe perhaps the Jack Black and Lizzo episode being the chief culprit there, but um, I guess overall, like a pretty underwhelming season. I guess that's fair to say, but not. I wouldn't go as far to say disappointing.
Right.
I think a lot of people would, like you said, kind of that division of being 50-50 split down the middle. Uh, I don't know. I feel like more I don't know if it's 50-50. I feel like more
Mhm.
people are like as it's kind of setting in and sinking in and people are getting more excited for, all the May the 4th stuff, which at the time of this recording, it is like less than an hour away from May the 4th. So happy May the 4th to all you East Coasters out there. It's
Lucky.
already May the 4th for Gibbo actually.
That's right. Yeah. Lucky.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's kind of I think as we move towards these other shows like Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Visions coming out in a few hours from now. I think people are kind of getting to the point with Mando where they're just like, it is what it is. Uh, and the fact that we get these other shows in the pipeline, I think makes it a little bit easier to let go of any frustration you have with
Mhm.
anything that you've seen, which honestly is a big reason why there was so much hate um, for a lot of the sequel stuff. Because it ends, and it's like, well, we don't get anything else for 2 years,
You're right. Yeah,
and
right.
then it's just like this level of frustration that you're not gonna have more of that thing that you want. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, we wait a couple weeks and we get more Star Wars content.
Right, right.
We're pretty spoiled now, I will say. But
I'm fine with it.
um, another kind of interesting thing that happened with the Mandalorian, or related to the Mandalorian, I guess. I believe it was over the weekend, I wanna say, when this quote came out, from Tamora Morrison, which, if you don't know who that is, he is the original actor in the prequel series for Jango Fett, and then later on would reprise sort of the same role, in quotation marks, for Boba Fett, who is technically Jango Fett's son, but of course they're clones, so he's gonna look the same. Played the role of Boba Fett in the recent show, The Book of Boba Fett, and in many ways got very overshadowed by The Mandalorian in his own show, which is kind of just background information and knowledge that if you didn't know, it's kind of important to know that to maybe better interpret this quote that he had recently over the past few days. For those of you watching the video version of the podcast, you can see it on the screen. But if you're listening to the audio version, the quote was, "I was supposed to be in the Mandalorian season 3, but nobody rang me. I was waiting for the phone call in New Zealand, waiting and wanting to give up. Well, that Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book. It was painful watching him turn up with some black new lethal sword, of course, meaning the dark saber. And the way he turned up in my book of Boba, he just destroyed everybody. I'm sure this guy is ruining my show, but I couldn't say anything. I'm not the writer, so I have to bear it, I guess. I think there's a few changes going on. We also come under the big umbrella known as Disney now, too. So it's one of many previous few conversations we had in LA. The dialogue began like, "Oh, look, we're having a few changes, we're having a few cutbacks." While you hear that on the different finish of the road, it's no good attempting to barter any more cash that's for positives, so we'll see what occurs. I feel like that last paragraph of his statement was, like, kind of all over the place,
Mhm.
but I think there's definitely some truth in some of
Yeah.
the things he's saying,
Right.
like, he has this show, it's called The Book of Boba Fett. The whole show is supposed to be about him, and there's literally not 1, but I think 2 full episodes of that show where it's basically just Mando season 2.5, where, there's like Luke and Ahsoka and Grogu, and you're like, this is like so cool. But what does it have to do with Book of Boba Fett? And maybe this is just a larger conversation that we need to have about Book of Boba Fett. That my favorite episode was the one where he was in it the least because it was Luke and it was Grogu, and it was Ahsoka, it was all this cool stuff that was coming into the episode. Um, Not that the show is bad. I think Book of Boba gets a bad rap. I think a lot of people really hated on this show. Um, I didn't love it by any means, but I think it does get too much hate. Again, it goes back to what we were saying. Like, if there's ever something you're not fully satisfied with, it doesn't feel like it leaves as bad of a taste in your
Hmm.
mouth as it used to. Because now we just have so much Star Wars content all the
Right.
time that it's like you can just look to the next thing. Um, but yeah, like the fact that he was expecting to be in this season of Mandalorian, and then I guess never received a phone call
Right.
is very surprising. And for those that also don't know, Tamora Morrison is not just like an actor who is in Star Wars. He is a Star Wars fan, and he cares a lot about the character of Django and Boba, especially. And so, to hear him, someone who's been a part of the Star Wars universe for, gosh, I guess what would it be now? 20
Over
years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess the first film he was in was Attack of the Clones, which would have been in 2002. So to hear this from someone who is a key integral piece of what we know as Star Wars, he does not really hold back here too much and kind of throws a little
Hmm.
bit of shade at Disney in the process.
Sure.
I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, did you have any other thoughts about his quote or just the harshness of it, if any?
I think the one thing we have to note is that yeah, the Book of Boba Fett, as far as all of the other TV series that have come out from Disney for Star Wars, probably in my eyes is probably the least successful one as far
Mhm.
as customer ratings, I guess, or
Yeah,
viewer ratings,
it
and
definitely is, yeah.
and most likely the best episodes, like you said, are the ones that he's not in. So um I feel like they were not set for success. Um
Mhm.
because they didn't fully you gotta go fully invested in Book of Boba Fett. The biggest thing that they got wrong, I mean, not the biggest thing they got wrong, but you gotta remember there are fans out there from 1977 who have been waiting so long for a Boba
Yeah.
Fett anything, you
That's
know?
not my boba.
Exactly, and where we had that with Luke, right,
Mhm.
in Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy. This, I mean, Boba was even more so because he had what, 1, 2 lines in all of the original trilogy,
Yeah.
and
Very
and
minimal.
people have been just salivating for more Boba, and this is what they got. I mean, I could see how they can be upset about it, and I feel bad. And I mean, when because he popped up in Mandalorian, right? Wasn't that his first, like, the first time we saw him was in Mandalorian season 2? Is that
Yeah,
right?
at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
season 2. Yeah.
So we have all these hopes, like, oh, now there's gonna be a Book of Boba Fett, it's gonna be great. And then somewhere along the lines, and I think what he says there is interesting, that there were just changes being made, either by Disney or whatever. You had that theory that maybe Grogu wasn't supposed to be around for this long in Mandalorian, but they saw how much they could sell now because of Grogu. They're like, "Yep, we'll just throw him in all the seasons now."
Yeah.
And maybe and he was a victim to that. He was a victim to Disney seeing them dollar signs and saying, "Oh, you know what? Let's throw Mandalorian in the middle of this like, oh, well, where does that fit? I don't know, we'll just it's just like that one episode. What was the episode in Mandalorian where it um was it the TED Talks one with Pershing, and then, like, there was, like, a random Mandalorian thing at the end?
I
I
think I know,
I
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they are guilty of doing that. They're trying to just throw things in there just to be like, "Oh yeah, this is important, also for the series," but then they just kind of yeah, then they've dug a hole for themselves because now you gotta keep Grogu around. Now you've gotta get the Mandalorian din and everything that you can. So I think that's just what we're seeing is just the after effects of all that, and I feel bad for him, and you could tell, and like you said, he's a huge fan, he's been part of this franchise for a very long time. To come back to this, I don't blame him for having the tone that he did in that quote.
Yeah, I feel like this just warrants a larger discussion on Book of Boba Fett also in general,
Mhm.
um, because I think that show is kind of doomed either way, because on one hand, the show is kind of already rocky in the sense that felt like it was departing from who people thought Boba should have been as a character.
Right.
And then when it got to the point where they had probably already lost that part of the crowd, they were like, "Well, this doesn't seem to be working, and we want Grogu in season 3, so let's just throw these 2 episodes in."
Yeah, right.
And so it was like, not only did you kind of not do the character justice, but then you also just abandoned the character after you thought, "Well, this isn't working."
Right.
Like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we could revisit Book of Boba sometime, maybe before season 2 comes out. I don't even know if that's
I haven't
confirmed, is it?
I've not heard any news on Book of Boba Fett. I mean,
Yeah.
if there was, he probably wouldn't have said any of this.
Yeah, now it might even be even more up in the air if he's not on good, level, good footing with the producers or with Disney or with Jon Favreau or whoever it is. That'll be something to watch. I if I had to guess, I would hope we get a second season of Book of Boba, but I just think there would have to be a ton of changes, and
Mhm.
it may not even be worth the headache of going through it if it ends up not being what we
Mhm.
want out of it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But Tamora Morrison, definitely not holding back the punches with that latest quote
Right.
from this past weekend. Which also brings us to our next point, kind of in the same realm of just people being frustrated in regards to situations and everything going on in the world of television. There is a writers' strike currently going on in the Hollywood verse. And I honestly and admittedly don't know a ton of information in regards to why exactly. I mean, I assume obviously financial compensation
Mhm.
is a big piece of this,
Mhm.
but how it originated or anything like that. What I do know is from an article I read about late night hosts, uh, writers, striking from all the late night shows. So if you're wondering why there's no late night shows this week, there's a writer's strike currently going
Mhm.
on in Hollywood. But in regards to how this might affect Star Wars, I guess the main question we have to ask is how long does a writer's strike usually go
Right,
for?
yeah. I mean, the one that happened in '07 or '08, I can't remember what year it was. That went for like 100 days. So,
Wow.
it could be pretty significant, you know? I don't know the exact numbers around, how much each studio is losing based, each day and all that, but, um, yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of it is is, um, is around, like, streaming, like the compensation they receive for these streaming, platforms that they write for, and the worry about AI kind of taking over ChatGPT. That's all the new rage,
Hmm.
and having that to maybe be like a supplemental type of writer for some of these shows. So I think that's kind of the worries. That's kind of where it all stems from. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so if we're talking 100 days, that could really push back quite a bit of production. I mean, I don't know how far they are into the movies that we mentioned for Celebration, of 3 movies. Obviously things like Ahsoka, things like Visions, and all that's said and done.
Right.
But things like
Like
The
Andor
Acolyte,
season 2,
Andor
Acolyte,
season
yeah.
2, right? Acolyte season 2, Acolyte, Andor season 2, Skeleton Crew. Those are things that are probably be affected. Like I said, I don't know where they all are in the production of theirs, but yeah, I mean that's so that's what's going to be affected from the Star Wars world. Um, we're going to have to be waiting a little bit longer, but fortunately, right, we still have Ahsoka, upcoming soon. So that is in what's the countdown on that, in August, right?
Yeah, we're
So
probably about 4 no, sorry, 3 months. Well, I guess we don't have an exact date, but
yeah.
yeah,
At
about 3
earliest,
months.
let's say 3, 4 months, right? So that's around the 90, 100 days, right? So, assuming it goes that long, we have that to kind of hold us over. And, for anyone who needs their Star Wars fix, there's plenty of books, comic books, there's video games. Honestly, Star Wars fans can get by if they really needed some new to them Star Wars content. But as far as the TV shows, the movies, um, it's gonna be all on hold for a little while, and it's from the articles that I read, it's gonna be one of these significant, longer strikes that may happen, and, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. I've never been on any of these types of issues or these like strikes or anything like that. So, but I got a feel for them. I got a feel for these writers. I mean, these studios are making billions and billions of dollars, and if they can't spread that love around, of course, they're gonna eventually have to put their foot. The little guy's gonna have to put their foot down eventually, and I can't believe I'm saying writers from studios or other little guys, but they are. These executives are
Sure,
making
compared to the companies, yeah.
yeah, the companies and the executives are making mad bank, and where these writers, it sounds like they're not happy. I mean, these are the ones that are making these shows. So you gotta make sure that they're happy.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the resolution comes about sooner than later. Hopefully it's less than 100 days this time, but I guess that remains to be seen. Something we are definitely going to be touching on for probably a good portion of the rest of this podcast is the fact that, as previously mentioned, tomorrow or today, at the time of your listening or watching this or listening to this, is May the 4th. So I guess I should first of all start off by saying, May the 4th be with you. Happy May the
Happy Star
4th.
Wars Day.
Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. Exactly. Yes. Um, Not only is it Star Wars Day, but we're also getting the release of a couple new and potentially some also interesting
Yes.
things on May the 4th. And then maybe even a couple surprise announcements. Hopefully, I'm hoping we get an Ahsoka release date. We'll talk about that maybe at the very end of the podcast today. But some of the things we are definitely getting here in about 2-3 hours at the time of this recording from now is Visions season 2, which, as we've talked about, mainly is probably I've gone on too long about several times, is what I'm really excited for. Probably besides Ahsoka, what I'm most excited for, actually, having loved Visions season 1, which came out, I feel like it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. Does that sound about right?
No, I think it was definitely before it because I had a
Oh,
friend
was
over.
it?
I had a
Okay.
friend over, so it was definitely before. I don't remember the date of it, but it was definitely
Time
before it.
time time ceases to be understandable with the past 2 or 3 years, so, yeah, I guess Visions may have even been as far back as 2019. Does that sound maybe a little bit
Yeah, it's
more
possible.
accurate?
Yeah.
We're getting a bunch of new shorts with Visions season 2. With season 1, there was some that hit and some that missed, but for the most part, any Star Wars content is great content. Any new content is content I look forward to watching. And a quick note on Visions as well. I think we talked about this. I can't remember if it was on our last podcast or our live stream. But I think the reason I get really excited about Visions is because I know, because it is not canonical,
Hmm.
it doesn't have that chance of like completely botching and messing up something in the lore, the world of Star Wars, because
Right.
each studio that makes each episode individually is its own creative masterpiece that they have singularly worked on with probably a little bit of oversight because it's still Star Wars, but like
Sure.
it doesn't matter if a character like, you know, because they're all original I would assume all these episodes are going to have all original characters
Hmm.
that are just kind of they're telling these stories. They're brand new, original for the first time. Some of these shots we're seeing right now are really enticing. Anytime we get some lightsaber stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks great. I think is it 10 or 12 that we're getting? I think it's 10, right?
I think it's probably 10.
Um, Either way, I'm debating on staying up to watch these tonight. Legitimately, I might just stay up, watch the ones that have the lightsabers in the thumbnail.
In the thumbnails, yes.
I don't know if I should do that. I don't know if I want to get the best ones out of the way to start off, but
Well, you don't know that. You don't know if those are to be the best. You
true.
never
That's
know.
fair. That's
We
fair.
loved Andor. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, great point. Great point. Something else we're also going to be getting tomorrow is a kind of a more on the children's line of things, which we've also talked about. It's called Young Jedi Adventures.
Mhm.
There's a few shorts for
Yeah.
this show that are also have been available, I think, for a few weeks now on Disney Plus. I think there's 5 or 6 of them, and they're each about 5 minutes long. And you've watched at least one or two of those. Is that right?
Yeah, I watched one of them actually, and yeah, it's it's exactly what it looks like. It's fun, it's cute. We've got we got the little yeah, they got all the Kai. You've got Kai, you've got Liz here, Nubs as well. I mean, these are the cutest kids that you could imagine
I
to
saw
be also Jedi.
The Star Wars Reddit. Nubs was
Oh
one
yeah,
of the
look at this
things that
guy.
everyone
Look
was
at
like
this guy. Are
going
you
crazy
kidding me?
for.
Yeah, you gotta love Nubs here. So it's funny. One of my really close friends, her name is actually Liz,
Mhm.
and it's spelled the same way, Lois, and she also loves purple. She got purple hair also in there, kind of that same aesthetic there, and she's a lover of creatures as well as apparently is Liz in the show. So I think I found my favorite character out of this series already. So, but no, I'm actually pretty excited about this too. I mean, as you mentioned, I think either on the last episode of the podcast or maybe on the VOD, when we were playing the video game, is this there's a generation out there that this is their introduction to Star Wars. There's going to be a little 3-year-old, 4-year-old maybe that's watching this and for the first time is introduced to the Star Wars world, and that's going to be pretty cool. That this is the first thing that they remember, only to have their mom or their dad to say, "Did you like that? Well, I've got something to show you. Disney Plus." Boom. So
It gets even better.
it's working. So I think it's very cool to see them kind of branch out to reach out to even a younger audience in that. I mean, eventually that's going to happen with Disney, and I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to watch it as well. Another thing releasing tomorrow that I didn't see this until today. I think it was announced today. Today being May 3rd. Maybe it was May 2nd. Either way, it was very recently announced. Excuse me. And Um, it's Maggie from The Simpsons, Maggie Simpson in Rogue Not Quite One. So obviously it's a play on words on the Rogue One film. And literally, I think the only concept art for this at this point is this image on the screen of Maggie in this. I don't even know what
It's
kind
a
of
transport of some sort. Yeah.
yeah, almost looks like an escape pod
Escape pod.
of
Yeah.
some kind, being chased by dozens of TIE fighters, and there's actually one advanced TIE that I think this is technically the same ship that Vader flies,
Mm.
at the end of episode 4, if I'm, not
TIE Interceptor,
mistaken.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe we get to see Darth Vader in Rogue Not One. That'd be kind of funny. Uh,
Yeah.
Other than that, not a ton of information on this
Right. Yeah.
show, but it does come out tomorrow. So,
On Disney Plus, I believe as well, if I'm
on
not
Disney
mistaken.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
streaming tomorrow.
do I watch Visions? Do I watch Young Jedi Adventures, or do I watch Simpsons Rogue Not Quite One?
Yes.
I think we know which one I'm watching first,
Yeah, I
but
think so too as well.
I think there's merit for the other two as well. Like, I'm definitely gonna watch all of them. That's for sure.
Mhm.
I think I'm the most curious about this one because I don't understand what it is, and
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go into it very inquisitively.
Yeah,
I will
just to give
say.
an idea for everyone watching. I mean, today we were getting ready for we have like production notes and things that we get ready for the show. And then as I'm kind of scrolling through Instagram, I'm like, what is this? So then I copied it and pasted it. And I'm like, guys, we got to figure out what this is. So we had to talk about it real quick here.
The Simpsons is now Star Wars lore. You heard it here
Apparently,
first.
that's right.
Imagine they make that show canonical.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. Kind of circling back around to the video game conversation that we touched on with Fallen Order and Survivor to start the podcast off today. Um, Lots of Star Wars is being inserted into very mainstream games and titles. Chief of which is Fortnite. If you are not a player of Fortnite or a fan of Fortnite, or if you've never played, there are of course skins for the characters in Fortnite, and one of the most recently released skins is actually there's two of them. There's the Anakin. Actually, there's probably more than two. I think there's clone
Mhm.
troopers and stormtroopers as well. But the main two are Anakin and Padme. Um, Anakin, it's kind of the episode 3 Anakin, and then Padme, it's kind of the episode 2 Padme, the Geonosis look Padme, if you will. So, um, and Disney or Star Wars is getting their claws in everywhere. This is super cool, by the way. I meant to tell you, I had not spent money on Fortnite since 2019. I don't think. I spent money in Fortnite this week.
Yeah, so yeah, when you play on Fortnite and you
Oh,
have
Darth
friends on
Maul. We forgot
Darth
about
Maul,
Darth
that's right.
Maul.
Yeah, Darth
Yeah.
Maul is there, and additionally clone troopers as well. When you play on Fortnite and you have friends on Fortnite, so me and Ben are friends on Fortnite, you can see like that they're playing, but then they have like a little like profile picture of the skin that they're actually using at that moment. And I looked at Ben's and I saw he was online. I'm like, yep, he bought Padme, So I knew that was what was happening. But yeah, so they got some of the clone troopers on. One of the more interesting clone troopers that I saw that they had is that they actually have the clone troopers with Ahsoka's
Yeah.
symbol on top of it. So, and even in the game, it'll say like Ahsoka clone trooper or something like that. That's what they're named. So I'm hoping at some point we get an Ahsoka skin in Fortnite. That would be
Oh, I would spend so much money on an Ahsoka skin in Fortnite. I would
that
honestly
would
drop
be.
$50 on a skin if that's
I
how
would
much it
too.
costed.
I would too. So if there was a 300 level battle pass to get Ahsoka, I would grind Fortnite for morning and night until I got that thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's how the Darth Maul skin is, I think. You have to
It
grind to
is.
unlock it, don't you?
Yeah, so there's like 11,000 like galactic reputation essentially that you have to kind of unlock, and you get those through tasks and stuff like that. Um, but like right now you can only unlock like 3,500 of them, so they're going in phases. So there's gonna be
Oh,
another
it's
phase
time
that you have
gated.
to. Yeah, yeah. So you had like 4 days to finish this set of 3,500. Then there's probably gonna be another 35. I think the whole event itself is like 2 weeks long. So
Yeah,
hopefully you don't lose access to the first phase if you haven't finished it. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that goes, but
right.
no, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I guess this isn't the first collab that Star Wars has done with
Hmm.
Fortnite, but it's cool to see the continuation, like, they're still adding more skins. It's just fun to open a game as universal as Fortnite is, and there's Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah,
they've dipped into so many different pools, and Star Wars being one
yeah,
of the cooler ones, I would say. But
yeah,
they've
no doubt.
collabed with the NFL, the NBA, so
Yeah, yeah.
uh, Fortnite knows what it's doing, and Star Wars is the most recent addition to a lot of the cool new skins that game has to offer. Another game that is also collabing with Star Wars is Rocket League. I'm not a big Rocket League player. My brother used to play a ton of Rocket League.
Mm.
I don't know how big of a Rocket League player you are, but these cars or vehicles that you use to kind of play what I call soccer in Rocket League
Football,
are it's
football.
football. Excuse me. Yes, are like R2D2 and BB-8. I think you said there's a C3PO one as well.
C3PO one and it's a K2SO type skin as well.
So specifically focusing in on the droids for the skins in
Hmm.
that game.
Yeah, there's a cool little trailer too if you go look for it. But yeah, I mean, I haven't played a ton of Rocket League. It's pretty fun once you get the hang of it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, both of these games we should mention are owned by Epic, so I think that
True.
helps out a lot. I don't know, how the licensing necessarily goes, but Epic has licensing for at least Star Wars things skins in both Rocket League and Fortnite. Hopefully a Fall Guys one at some point. That'd be super cool. But
I might have to come back to Fall Guys if they have Star Wars skins. I'm just
that's right.
saying.
So but yeah, so Epic is really milking that license and making sure that they get all the bang for their buck there.
I feel like they're doing a good job of it.
Yes.
Well, kind of shifting gears again here, and this is something that you are very passionate about, I know,
Mm,
in kind of the collectibles and the merchandise sphere of
yeah.
Star Wars, and I guess probably outside of Star Wars too, right? But mainly your
Yeah,
focus is
mainly
Star
Star Wars.
Wars,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So
lots of new
so yeah,
information in that realm.
yeah, yeah. So every year on May 4th, it's not only Star Wars Day, but it's as you could see, things like video games and now Legos, and all toys and figures and all this, like to, have, marketing for newer figures, newer models. So the ones here for Lego actually came out on May 1st for what they call VIP members. Now, VIP members is just basically a program with Lego where you could kind of collect points, and then based off your purchases, and you can get some perks out of those points. So one of the newer ones that they came out with is this Ultimate Collection X-Wing. So this is a pretty big. I forget how many pieces it is, but it's thousands of pieces essentially to build this X-Wing. So it's a pretty big model. So I'm pretty excited to see how that's going to look. I think it does retail for like $230 or something like that. So it's a beast, and it's definitely a fun thing to put together. I would assume. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it, but it's definitely something that's come out. It's going to be available to everybody, I think, on May the 4th, tomorrow. But it was available to the VIP members as of May 1st, so they could have ordered it then. Another thing that they're doing is for any other Star Wars purchase that you actually get 2 times the points for any of the Star Wars purchases that you have at Lego, and these are on Lego.com. These are at Lego stores, not at like Target or anything like that. You have to be at a Lego purchase store to get all of that. And this includes for the other things that they have some cool things. If you do spend if you do spend over 100, well, let's start with if you do spend over $150, you'll get like this Death Star for free, essentially. So that middle picture there in the middle, that's what you'll get. If you spend $85 or more, you get like special coins that Lego has produced for this. You can see it's like a Death Star little coin that you can get as well. And if you spend $40 or more, you get like this mini X-Wing. So those normally like are 100 pieces, a lot smaller, but a pretty cool thing to have. So basically, if you were to spend all that money for the Ultimate Collection X-Wing that was shown earlier, which is like $230, you actually get all 3 of these right away. So, which is a pretty cool deal. Yeah, which is a pretty good deal. So yeah, it's something fun that they do every year for Lego. Another thing that happens a lot every year is they'll release new figures from Hasbro, for instance. That they're the ones that produce all these figures. The new figures that are coming out, we've got Ahsoka, we've got Darth Malgus. I think you might be a little familiar with.
I like that Darth Malgus one.
There's a Magna Guard from the prequels. I believe there's a Ewok. I think it's Wicket. There's a Phase 2 Clone Trooper Chewbacca, and there's a Mandalorian Din Djarin with the Darksaber. So I think that might be the first time we see Mando with the Darksaber in this form factor. These are the 6-inch figures that they have here. There were a couple of other ones that they had. I think there was one that was the Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor was one as well. And I want to say there's a Luke one that's coming out. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of hype around that for those collectibles out there, for the Lego ones, for the Hasbro ones. And I might be spending some money.
You'll have to keep me updated on that. I'm particularly interested in the Darth Malgus one. It seemed like a lot of those Hasbro toys really covered a range of eras too. So that was pretty neat.
They certainly do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, lots of stuff happening on May the 4th, not just shows, but the release of all these cool collectibles that you've just gone through with us. And it's just a fun time, to be a Star Wars fan. Like this week, I think I tweeted something on like Monday. I was like, "Happy Star Wars Week." I don't even know if that's like a thing officially, but I was like, it's a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a thing, absolutely.
May hits, and the first thing that my mind, and I don't know if this is the same with you, but a lot of Star Wars fans are probably like, "Oh, it's Star Wars time. It's May the 4th coming up."
I feel bad for my friends who have birthdays around this time because I always forget because I'm so focused on everything Star Wars at this point.
Yeah. It's a fair thing to be focused on. It
I
warrants
think so.
it warrants and deserves a lot of attention. Well, we've got lots of fun stuff coming out between Vision Season 2, Young Jedi Adventures, Simpsons Rogue Not 1, and then, of course, all the merchandise and collectibles between the Lego and Hasbro toys. Is that an appropriate way to refer to them as toys?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean,
Okay. I feel like I could just see, like, maybe,
there's
like,
somebody that's mad about you right now, I think.
like a collector who collects those figurines is like, they're not toys. I'm like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. Additionally, hopefully we get some cool announcements tomorrow. I was speculating that we might get an official release date for Ahsoka.
Ooh.
It's currently only confirmed to be August of 2024. So I want them to nail
Yeah.
down a date.
What would be nice if they released the trailer that they showed at Celebration that wasn't released to the public,
Oh, you think they
and then
might?
using I really hope so.
All I know is
Uh,
I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning, I'm gonna check Twitter, and there hopefully will be something, and I'm hopefully gonna be excited.
yeah, I'm waiting for the 7 AM, DM from Ben that I that I normally would never get at that time.
Joey, did you see they dropped that they're gonna do 8 new movies and
Oh my god.
15 new TV shows?
I'm like, "What's happening?" Like, wiping my eyes.
Yeah, I hope we do get a date for Ahsoka. Man, the only thing left for me to say during this pod is should I stay up tonight, Joey? Should I stay up tonight and watch these?
I I think you're gonna.
I
I
think
just
I'm
think you're going
gonna.
to. I think you're gonna.
I don't have to be in the office tomorrow until 9. I can still get,
Vision suit.
visions. I legitimately think I'm going to stay up. I'm probably gonna watch like 2 or 3 episodes of Visions all tonight and then watch the rest of it tomorrow probably, but
Mhm.
man, am I excited, and, I hope all of you Star Wars fans out there are really excited as well. We greatly appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the Hoth Hangout Podcast, a very special one, of course, uh, mainly because we welcomed on producer Gibbo. Another big round of applause for Gibbo. If you're watching the video version of this on YouTube, comment welcome Gibbo down below on this video. We would really appreciate it. And Joey, do you have anything else to say before we sign off in regards to May the 4th or whatever you'd like to discuss?
Happy Star Wars Day.
Happy Star Wars Day indeed. May the 4th be with you, to each and every single one of you. Thanks again for listening to this version of the Hoth Hangout Podcast. Remember, if you're watching the video version, you can check it out on YouTube. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the podcast. And if you're listening to the audio version, thanks for checking us out over on Spotify and Apple. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Take care.